What's up, guys? So today we're going to be reviewing the gel Nimbus 28 and the gel Cumulus 28. I purchased these on March 29th and I received them on March 31st. As of today, it is July 7th. So that's been about April, May, June, July, 4 months. 4 months already. And I'm just going to give you my experience on using them. You will see at the end, I will show a clip of me pretty much like using them. And at the beginning, you'll see me pretty much trying them on. Now that video was pretty much within the first week of me having them. And yes, so let's get into it. So at this point, I should pretty much name this channel the shoe channel by the amount of shoes that I'm always showing. But I do believe how foot placement, of course in boxing and of course in running, like it pretty much constructs your whole like form of like your spinal, everything stems from the feet. But we'll get into that topic in another time if we make another video talking about that. But I'm gonna give my experience based off using these and the shoes that I've used in the past. So before we get into these, I'm gonna get into some of the shoes that I've used in the past. So in the past, this was about 2020, I used these. These are Nike Flyknits, which these were probably one of the first pair of running shoes in which I was able to like run for longer periods of time without feeling like too much pain. And at the moment I was pretty young and I wasn't too aware of like, I would just work out without paying too much attention to what my body would feel pretty much. But as time started going on and you start running more, you start doing a lot of jump rope, you start to realize certain things, right? So these, I've had these like since 2020. They have been a great pair of shoes, but nothing compared to what the Cumulus are today and to what the Nimbus are today. It's just a whole other level of experience based off of the foam that's underneath the shoes. But these were a great pair of shoes. I've probably done anywhere from 1,000 miles in these. And they're still great. I still use them to like walk around or maybe grocery shopping, but never to run. I don't use these to run no more. They're retired at this point. And before that, I had these. These were maybe 2019, 2018. And I would do a lot of running in these. These are not meant for running. They are just too stiff underneath at the bottom. It's comparable to wearing a pair of Vans, right? It's just horrible. They're not meant for running. And when I was in high school, not only me, but hundreds of other kids, they just run because it's either PE or or what they have at the moment. They're not too aware of what shoes are good for this and good for that. And then during that time I also had a pair of these are used and abused. I have done so much running in these. I have done more running in these than the other two pairs that I have just shown. Now these are some New Balance. Based off the design, I honestly wanted to keep on using them. I really like the design, but same thing with like a pair of Vans. These are just too stiff and strong at the bottom, like, and flat. So like as you're like stomping the ground with each run or with each time you're doing jump rope, as time goes on you start to feel the impact. But at the moment I was very young and wasn't too aware. All right, so now that we got through those, like I said, with those I put in a couple 1,000 miles in just those 10 to 15,000, in just miles, Now that sounds like a very low number, but when you get into the walking, the running, the jump rope, and then to doing things on a daily basis, they start to add up. So now we're going to get into these. These are the gel Cumulus 25. These are the gel Cumulus 25 as well. And then these are the gel Nimbus 25. So first of all, we're going to start with the gel Cumulus. The gel Cumulus 25, these are great. These are the first pair of running shoes where I was honestly like, where have I been all these years? What have I been doing? Like, with the amount of jump rope that I've been doing, with the amount of running I've been doing, I just couldn't believe everything I was stressing my legs and my knees with, and these pretty much resolved most of the solutions of working out too much. First, I'm gonna get into these black ones. These black ones, I work at a warehouse. I'm always on my feet. We're supposed to wear safety shoes. Nobody has found out. So I was using these for work for about 2 years inside of a warehouse. For safety precautions, you know, they have us wear. I'm not gonna lie, at times I have hurt my foot a couple times, but you know, I've been fine. I've been able to live with it. Aside from that, the walking and moving around all day during work, you know, after a while your legs start to feel it. And like I said, these have been great. Look, they're already ripped right here and right here. Aside from using them with work, I've used them to run many miles, and I've done many rounds of jump rope. These have a couple thousand miles of running. When it comes to hours of jump rope, maybe hundreds of hours of just doing jump rope and using them for work. Like I said, I've used these for like 2 years for work. These, I strictly use these for running. Pretty much the same thing as those. I still love using these till today for running, even though I've been using the Gel Cumulus 28 and the Nimbus 28. They're still pretty good for running, although they've had thousands of miles already in them. They're a little bit more broken in, but they're still very comfortable. Still a very comfortable pair of shoes. I'll use these either go grocery shopping or like walk around, you know, the neighborhood or whatnot. And for running and jump rope, these are still a great pair of shoes. We're gonna get into the Nimbus. Now, when I thought that these were like the epitome of like top tier performance, these right here, man, these are like way better. If I were to value the performance from these, I'd say 20% better when it comes to comfort of like moving around and doing like jump rope. To me, these are the best pair of shoes that I've used for jump rope. The Nimbus 25 and the 28. You know, you just don't feel the impact as much. These are meant more for, I say, like short distance running, maybe a good 2 to 3 miles. These, I've used these more like to run 5, 7, 10, 11 miles in these. And they're a little bit lighter, which you can't tell the difference after using them for extended periods of time. You know, you could kind of tell the difference. I still prefer the Nimbus over the Cumulus, but I like to alternate my shoes because I end up breaking my pair of shoes. And by that, I mean like, you know, you just started using too much, get too much dirt on them and whatnot. So like I said, the Nimbus have been great. They're a little bit, like I said, heavier, but when it comes comfort and impact on the ground, I say 20 to 25% better. I'm not a pure runner, but I do a lot of jump rope and I do a lot of running. Now, I'm not a track star. I'm not a long distance runner. I don't do marathons, so I can't really speak off of that aspect. But what I have done is 10, 11 miles, 12, maybe even 13 miles. Now let's get into the 28s. Like I said, it's been about four months already using these. I just went grocery shopping right now using these. Very comfortable, very light. In these, I did 11 miles in these. Like the first 2 weeks of using them, they were a little bit stiff at the time. Now they're broken into to where like as I impact the ground, you know, it's more softer in my opinion. They just get like a little bit softer, not too soft, but just a little bit softer over using them. The same thing. These are meant more for, I'd say, like long distance, in my opinion. Everything's on my opinion because if you go to watch people who are experts on running shoes, they have their own opinions on how they rate running shoes, right? I rate running shoes based just for boxing, jump rope. Like I was saying, I've done 11 miles in these, 10 miles, 7 miles in these. In these, I've done maybe 2, 3 miles, 5 miles, at max 5 miles. I replaced the Cumulus 25s with the Nimbus 28 when it comes to work. And I could tell the difference at work. There is a huge difference between Cumulus to Nimbus, in my opinion. These are like your everyday walking shoes. You could do pretty much everything in these. If you're gonna do long distance, I still prefer the Cumulus for long distance. These are more for like short distance, maybe 3 miles, 5 miles at max. And like I said, grocery shopping. And if you want to use them to work like I do, they're very light on your feet. If you're on your feet, people who have jobs to where they're walking around like customer service or, you know, just pretty much stuff like that to where you're on your feet all day. So yes, like I said, these have been a great pair of shoes. I've already put in hundreds of miles in both of these. The colorways on these are beautiful. I've stated purple is my color. I love purple. These are more of like a royal purplish, and in lighting, like when you light them up, it can come out like to like a bluish color as well. So it's like it's that with the green stripes. They're a very great pair of shoes. These also have like a whole bunch of colorways as well: gray, blue, red, green, a whole bunch of different colorways. If you're gonna be doing boxing, you want to have your shoes for boxing, and you want to have your shoes for running, because in the past I was too naive and I was too dumb at the time, and without adults telling me, we're supposed to pretty much separate our running shoes with our boxing shoes, because we don't want to be like how Mike Tyson was before, running in boots, right? You know, and in Tim's, pretty much. You know, there's no point in running 5 or 7 miles, you know, in hard boots. You know, that's just gonna mess up your legs, your knees, especially with the accumulation of time. So yes, take care of your legs. Your legs are number one in boxing. It's what gets you to somebody. It's what gets you away from somebody. My whole opinion on these shoes: great pair of shoes. These are the Gel Nimbus 28, Gel Cumulus 28. Overall, when it comes to running shoes, I'll rate these a 9. In my opinion, a 9. They could be used with pretty much everything. When it comes to all the pair of shoes that I've had, like I said, are rated a 9. Now, when it comes to improvements from the 25 Cumulus and the 25 Nimbus, I'd say there's an improvement of at least 15%. You know, they pretty much stuck with the same principles, but they probably added a little bit more cushion here. They probably made the heel a little bit harder. But aside from that, they're still very similar on how they were previously, but you know, with minor improvements. Now let's get into sizing, okay? So I'm pretty much 42 centimeters in shoes. I got these in an 8. I did not get them in an 8.5. Now, why did I go with the 8? Previously, I bought these both pairs, the Cumulus, in a size 8. So I was like, okay, since I bought those previously before in a size 8, then they're probably going to fit me about the same in a size 8 in the Cumulus and in the Nimbus. But regularly, I'm a 42 centimeters. Now, 42 centimeters in most shoes are a 8.5. I think a 9 as well. You could go maybe a half size bigger. I wouldn't say a full size, but about a half size bigger. When it comes to length, in my opinion, there's still a little bit like headroom in there. Width, they're great on width. Not too big, not too narrow. Great on width. So length and width, great. The laces, they're not too long on laces. They're pretty much like, you know, normal laces. Not too long, not too big. The only difference that I could say, aside from, you know, the paddings on the bottom, is the Nimbus come with the loop in the back, you know, as you're putting them on. Cumulus don't. And yeah, like I said, they're very similar. Design wise, they're very similar. You know, very similar A6 logo. If you were to buy a pair of these, I would either go, like I said, half size bigger or maybe half size smaller. And you know, once you try them on, you'll find out right there and then. And then, like I was stating in my previous video with my Hyper KOs, some shoes you just gotta break them in if they're a little bit tight. I won't lie, these were maybe a little bit tight, but I've already broken into them, so at this point they're just pretty like comfortable and normal to use. Yeah, guys, so this is my review. I rate these a 9 out of 10. Gel Nimbus 28, Gel Cumulus 28. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching.